So okay, next we'll continue with next type of statements is decision making statements. So this is one of the important type of statements we write. So what is the purpose of going with a decision making statements is? So first we'll see what is purpose of using these kind of statements, and then I'll tell you how to use. So what are the things that are supported in decision making statements? So what is the syntax for that, and how to use these decision making statements in writing a C program? So what is the situations will write decision making statements is actually we have written few programs now. So till now we have written some 5 or 10 programs. So let us say I have written a program with main function, and let us say inside this main function, let us say I have written some 5 or 6 statements. So my program consists of some 4 or 5 statements. So what actually happens with these 4 or 5 statements I write in the main program, main function is, so all these statements will be executed in a sequential order. That means first it executes the first statement, then it executes the second one, then it executes third, fourth, fifth. So all these statements are executed in one sequential order. So like if I do some 3 or 4 operations, and I am simply displaying the output, say addition of 2 numbers, I'm adding those 2 numbers and I'm displaying the output. Suppose for swapping, I'm doing some 3 or 4 different operations, like assigning a variable to temporary, from temporary I'm assigning to the other variable. I'm doing some 2 or 3 operations there, and I'm simply displaying the output on the screen. But in some situations you will be facing, so where the output that you are going to display, so that will be dependent on the operations that you apply. Like situations like when I was given you a number, let us say n is my number, and I am giving some number for this n. Let us say I have given a number 4. So I want to decide, I want to display whether this number n is even number or odd number. So how I'll be displaying it is even or odd? I'll do some operations, like I'll do a modular operation with the 2 with on 4. So I'll apply modular division with the 2, and here I'll be getting some answer, some result, so which I call it as a reminder. So based on the reminder, I will decide whether that number is an even number or odd number, right? If the reminder is 0, I'll say it as even number. If the reminder is 1, I'll say it as odd number. So here the output that I am telling, the output that I have to display is purely dependent on the reminder we get. Yes or no? Always I'm not saying it is even, or always I'm not saying it is odd. Based on the reminder that I get, I'm deciding that number is an even number or odd number. Right? So I have to apply some operation, and based on the result of that operation, I am deciding that number is even or odd. In the same way, if I am giving you 2 numbers, let us say A and B. So I want to decide which is the biggest number of these 2. I want to decide which is the biggest number of A and B. Here I'll be comparing the values of A and B. Always the answer which I'm going to tell is not always A or always B. So by applying some comparison of A and B, I'll say if A value greater than B, If a value is greater than b, then I'll say a is the biggest number. Otherwise, I'll say b is the biggest number. That means the answer which I am going to tell you is not always the same. It is not always the same. So here with the comparison, with the result of the comparison, so I'll get some result when I compare a greater than b. I can compare, or I can even compare like this: a less than b, or I can even compare b greater than a, or b less than a. I can do any comparison. So by doing some comparison on the components a and b, then I will be deciding which is the biggest number and which is the smallest number. So the answer is dependent on this comparison. So in such a situations, we'll go with these decision making statements. So I have to make a decision before giving the output. So what decisions I'll make and how I can make the decisions is the concept of this decision making statements. See, we may have a situations where we need to change the order of execution of statements based on certain condition. Based on the condition. So what condition? If the reminder is 0, I'll change the execution order. That means I want to display one kind of statement if reminder is 0. I want to display other kind of statement when the reminder is 1. Or I'll display something if the value of a is greater than b. I'll display some other statement if the value of b is greater than a. So the output which I am going to give is depending on that condition. So that is what we call it as decision making. There you have to make a decision before displaying the output. So till now the programs which we have written, like you take addition, multiplication, you apply swapping technique. So there you no need to do any decisions. You apply addition operation, you simply apply that assignment operations, and you can display the answer, display the result. But where that is not same in all the situations. If the situation is when you want to change the order of your program execution or the statements you execute, so that order can be changed by making a decision. Okay, those statements are called as decision making statements. So for that decision making statement, so we'll use a basic one, which is if else. So we have different forms, so you can see on the screen: if else statement, nested if else statement, and else if ladder. So these are the different forms of making a decision. So this can be written, this decision making can be written in these different forms based on the complexity you write. So based on the complexity of our program, of our task, of our problem, you can choose one among these three. You can go with if else, you can go with nested if else statement, you can go with else if ladder. So we'll see all these things in detail. So when we discuss the things in detail, so then you will come across, so in what situations you can pick if else, in what situations you can pick else if ladder, so that you can easily understand when we discuss these three forms very clearly. Okay, so first moving to if else statements. So if else statement, it looks like this. So on the left side of the picture you can see, so that is the syntax of writing if else. So when we want to write if else, so we'll write like this: I'll use a keyword called if. Inside the brackets I will write a test expression. So what is this test expression means? Test expressions can be written with the help of relational and logical operators. So what are the relational operators we have? What are the relational operators we have? Hello? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, then why you are not responding? What are the relational operators we have? You people not making any notes of this? You're not having any notes with you. You don't have
Lesser,
a that,
greater,
huh?
lesser, greater, lesser are equal, greater are
Yes,
equal.
less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and
Is
not
equal
equal
to,
to.
Not
not
equal
equal
to.
to.
Is
Yes.
it equal to? Greater than or equal,
So
less than or equal?
yes, those are the relational operators. So this test expressions can be written with the help of those relational or logical operators. Okay, so how we can write this? So if I want to compare with a reminder whether the reminder equal to 0, I'll write like this. If the value of reminder is equal to 0, so it verifies with this test expression, or you can call it as a test condition. So the result or the answer for your test expressions is either you will get true or you'll get
False.
false. Your test expression results either true or false. If the test expression is true, it will execute the statements that you are written in the true block. We call this as a block. So something written in between the opening and closing flower braces, we call it as a block. You can write any number of statements inside this block according to your task. You can write one statement, you can write 10 statements, you can write 100 statements, depending on the situation, the task you are performing. That we call it as a true block. If the test expression is a true, it will execute the true block. So when it is executing the true block, it will not touch the statements in the false block. It will not touch, it will not execute the statements in the false block. When your test expression is false, in that case, without executing the statements in the true block, it will execute the statements that are written in the false block. So that means at any point of time, whatever test expression you write, it will execute either the true block or false block. It will not execute both the blocks, because your test expression answer may be true or may be false. Right? If it is true, it executes the true block of statements. If it is false, it will execute the false block of statements. So when it executes the true block, it will not execute false block. If it is executing the false block, it will not execute the true block statements. So either of the blocks will get executed at any point of time. any expression you take, so the expression can be either true or false. It can be both true and false at a time. So sometimes it is true, sometimes it becomes false. So when it is true, it will execute the true block, and when it is false, it will execute the false block. So you can on the right side you can see that picture. So that is the flow chart for if else. The flow chart how it executes for if else. So first it will verify. So it will enter into this block, and here it will verify your condition. So whether this condition is true. If this is yes, it will execute the code in the if block, or you can call it as a true block. If block is called as a true block, and else block is called as false block. So the statements that you write in the true block and false block are purely dependent on the condition that you are writing. You can't confine like this is always true and this is always false. The statements that you are writing in the true block is dependent on the test expression that you write. Okay, I'll show the difference when we are writing the program. Okay, so when this condition is true, it will execute the true block. That is, it executes the code that is written in the if block, and then it will continue from this part to the statements that are written after that block. So in that case, it will not execute the code that is there in the else block. Okay, suppose if this condition that you write is not true. If it is not true, in that case the control it executes in this direction. So that is it executes in this flow. So that is why we call it as a flow chart. If this is false, it will go and execute in this direction, and it will execute the statements that are written in the else block or false block. Okay, after executing the false block, the control will simply move in this direction. So anyhow, it will execute the code that is written outside this if block. That means whether the condition is true or false, it will definitely execute the statements that are written outside your block. But this block, this if block and else block, will be executed only based on the condition you write. So these statements are executed irrespective of your condition. But these statements you write inside this if block or else block will be executed based on the condition you write. So like example we take, I am giving you a number n. I am giving you a number n. So whether this n is true or false, sorry, n is even or odd. So once if you give the value for n, it will immediately divide it with, that means modular division will be done with the 2. And when it applies this modular division, you'll get some reminder. And I'll go and verify this reminder. So whether the value of this reminder is 0 or 1. If I say reminder equal to 0, if it satisfies, it will execute this block, that is if block. If the reminder is not 0, it will execute else block. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So you can understand it more clearly when we okay.
Sir,
Yes.
Sir, if the remainder will be is neither 0 or 1,
When you divide any number with
sir,
2, you'll get only 0 or 1.
if it comes in decimal,
No,
sorry.
no decimal values you'll get,
Okay.
because modular division can be applied only on integer numbers. So you can't write like 5.2 modular 2. When you are applying this modular division will be applied only on integer data. You will not get remainder values as point values.
Okay, sir.
Okay, it
Okay.
you cannot apply. When I'll show you, when you try to apply on this float values, so it will not allow you to apply.
Okay, sir.
Okay, okay, so just please you mute your mics. See, I'll show you with simple if else. Okay, I'll start with the hash include stdio.h. So I'll write void main. Okay, now first of all, when you are writing your main, you have to declare all the variables that you require in the code. So I'll take an integer variable n, and I'll take one more variable. I'll say it as reminder. Okay, so out of these two variables, I require input for n, and based on that n, I will calculate the remainder. Okay, I'll just giving a one print statement for the user. Enter the value of n. So this is just for the sake of the user. So user will give some number. So to let the user to know that he should enter a number, so I'm just displaying one statement on the screen, asking the user to enter the value of n. So now user will enter a value. I'll read that. So dynamic input I'm taking. So I have to read one integer. So format specifier for integer is %d, and I want to take it into the variable n. I'm writing it as %n. So this is what dynamic input is. Okay, user will enter a number, and that number I'm taking into n. So when the input is over, now I'll calculate the value for reminder. So how to calculate reminder? Reminder is equal to n modular 2. I'll divide the number with 2, and I'm considering the remainder for that division. And remember, both the operands n and 2, so both the operands have to be integers when you are writing a modular division operation. So now what I will do is I'll simply verify this value of remainder. If inside the brackets I'm writing the condition, that is what my test expression is. If the value of remainder is equal to 0, so what is my true block here? When the value of remainder equal to 0, I will display this printf the given number is even number. Yes or no? If the remainder value is equal to 0, the given number is even number. For suppose if the condition that you are writing here, that is, if the reminder value is not equal to 0, that means if your reminder value equal to 1, then in that situation I'll go to the else block, that is my false block, and inside the false block I'll display the given number is odd number. So this is simple. If this condition that I am writing it satisfies, that means if it is true, it will execute this statement. That means this if block. If this statement which I am writing, that is reminder equal to 0, if it is false, then without executing the true block, it will go and execute the false block. If otherwise, else. If the statement you are writing is not true, that means if it is false, it moves to the else block. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is the situation when you need to make a decision and you have to give the output. Okay, so now I'll simply execute and I'll show you what happens. So I'm compiling the code. So code got compiled successfully. So now I'll run. See, now it is asking me to enter the value of n. So until and unless I give the value for n, it can't execute. So this is what your dynamic input is. You are giving input to your variables when you are running the code. At runtime, I'm giving the input. If I give 25, so what it displays? The given number is odd number. So what actually happens here? So first, what is the value of your n? What is the value of n I have given?
25.
25. So when the input is given 25, next it will execute this statement. What is that? It calculates the reminder. So what is the reminder?
Odd number.
Reminder. Reminder is you are dividing your 25 with 2. So you can divide it for 12 times. So you'll get to 24 and your reminder is
1.
1. So now you are comparing here 1 equal to 0. Is 1 equal to 0?
No.
No. So your condition becomes false. Now your condition becomes false. So when the condition is false, what it will do? It will go and execute the
Else
else block
statement.
and it displays this statement. The given number is odd number. So got it? So you can see when I give 22, the given number is even number. The same happens here also. So it divides 22 with 2. So 11 times. So you'll get the reminder 0. So it verifies 0 is equal to 0. You're comparing this. Is it true or false? Yes, this is true. So when this is true, it will execute the true block, that is your if block. It will display this statement. The given number is even number. Okay, you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear up to this point?
For me, it is a compiling.
What?
It is a compiling.
Where? Where it is compiling?
It is not compiling for me.
Array, don't try now. You now you just listen. Later, after completion of this class, then you can practice. You are getting a recorded video, right? So you can keep that video by looking at that video. You can practice then. At the same time, when you're listening and at the same time you practice, you will not get the concept clearly. You may miss something. Better you just make a note of it when you're listening the class. So after completion of the class, you spend some 1 hour, 1.5 hour. So what is actually discussed? So you can go through that video, and then you can practice the things. So when I am delivering this, you don't at the same time you start typing means you will miss the concept. Okay, you just listen now. So what actually the thing is. So once if you know the things, you can practice. So then you will get the good results. At the same time, practicing means you'll miss some points. But the thing is, every point I cannot keep on the PPT and I can't send you. So some points can be told orally. So which you'll be missing if you do the multiple tasks at a time. You better you listen the things, and just if you feel it is important, just you make a note of it in your book. That's it. That will help you. When I am typing, you start typing. So you'll give your much concentration on typing the things. You will not listen. You will miss the things when you don't listen.
For notes, I'm using Notepad.
Not notepad. That is different. You just keep a book and pen. So
Okay, sir.
you can write. You can write it easy. That is more easy for you. Okay. So and I'll tell you one more thing. So I have written one printf in the true block. So what is that? The given number is even number. And I have written one statement in the false block, that is given number is odd number. And remember, given number is even number, it is not always in the true block. Why I am writing that in the true block is that is dependent on the condition that I have taken here. Depending on the condition that I have taken, according to the condition, this statement should come in the true block. That means if the value of reminder is equal to 0, that means that condition satisfies, then only I'll say it as even number. Right? If the reminder is equal to 1, the given number is odd number. So the statement which you are writing in the true block and false block is always not fixed in the true and false blocks. They are fixed only depending on the condition that you take. Suppose, look here, I can change my condition like this. I can write if reminder is equal to 1. I can write this condition also. What if reminder equal to 1? Odd number. So your true block and false block statements will change here, because I have taken a different condition. Okay, so logically whatever your test expression is there, you have to write your true block and false block based on that test expression. I have to change here. The given number is odd number when the condition is remainder equal to 1, and this is even number. Okay, so you got my point. Your true block and false block statements are dependent on the test expression you take. You can write different kinds of test expressions. So you can write test expressions like this many ways. You can write remainder equal to 0. See, for this one task, I can write if remainder is equal to 0, if remainder is equal to 1, if remainder is not equal to 0, if remainder is not equal to 1. I can write different types of test conditions, and the statement which you have to place in the true block and false block, you can just use your common sense, and you can decide. Okay, if remainder is 1, your true block and false block statements will change. If I write like this, if remainder is not equal to 0, means what is remainder? If it is not equal to 0 means if the remainder is not equal to 0 means remainder is
Odd.
remainder value is 1.
Odd.
One.
Okay, leave these two now. As of now, leave these two. You don't get confused. So you can understand these two things, right?
Yes, sir.
If remainder equal to 0 and remainder equal to 1, so are both the same?
No.
Definitely no. Definitely no. So your true block and false block statements are depending on the condition that you write there. That we call it as a test expression. So when you should write, if your test expression is true, it will execute the statements that are written in the true block. That's it. You remember that point. If your test expression is false, it will execute the statement in the false block. You have to remember that point, not placing even number or not placing odd number in the true block or false block. That is what your logical thinking should be. Okay, remember one thing. So in this entire course, we'll discuss 100, maybe 100 programs. That 100 programs is not C language. You go somewhere else, you can learn 100 other programs. So don't try to remember the program. Try to remember the logic that you are applying. This is completely logical thinking. You have to apply your logical thinking. When you are good at applying logical thinking, then only you can solve the programs and programming. Okay, so that is very important. Logical thinking is very important when you are solving any problem. So we'll write the programs by solving logically. For the same program, remember even number or odd number, I can write 4 different programs for this. It will display the same thing. If you give an even number, it displays the number is even, and you give odd number, it displays odd, the number is odd number. But the way that I can write the program is different. But every program that I write is logically correct. That is what your coding is. You have to apply that logical thinking.
समझाता लेकिन वो ज्यादा अच्छा है.
Hello?
Hello?
So you got this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next we'll see one more program. Okay. So I'll give you two numbers, say A and B. Okay. I just want to display which number is the biggest number. Okay. So I'll say 10, 12. If the input values are 10 and 12, I want to display which number is the biggest number. Okay. As a programmer, you have to check for all possibilities. In what situation I can say that A is the biggest number? In what situations I can say B is the biggest number? Okay, so you have to think for both the cases. So because I have two numbers and out of those two I want to print which is the biggest one. So you have to think for both the possibilities, and out of that you have to display which is the biggest one.
B.
Okay, we'll see how to write it in a program. Okay, so actually when you are writing the program, so you don't know what are the values of A and B. I'm just taking two variables A and B. Okay, so you have to check for the possibilities of A to become the biggest and what are the possibilities for B to be the biggest. You have to think it and you have to write the logic. Okay. Largest of two numbers and say void main. So what variables you require? So what variables you require? I require A and B. I require A and B. Okay. So first I'll take input for these two variables. So printf, I'll ask the user, enter two numbers. So user will enter two numbers. So I'll reading those two numbers into two integer variables. So two integer variables, I have to write two format specifiers, ampersand A and ampersand B. So ampersand A and ampersand B. So I'll get the input for A and B. Now I have to decide. So what are the possibilities for A to become the biggest? In what situation you can say A is bigger? So you don't bother about the values of A and B. In what situation you can say A is the biggest number? Simple, if the value of A is greater than B, right? If the value of A is greater than B, A is the biggest number. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes. I will write like this. If the condition A value is greater than B, so what should I display now? Printf. I'll display like this. Percentile D is bigger than percentile D. So what are those percentile D values? So how many format specifiers I have in the printf? Two format specifiers. So I'll display the values of A and B in the place of those two. What if the condition that I have written a greater than b is false?
Hmm?
If a greater than b is false,
D greater than D. D is smaller than D.
yes, printf, I'll say percentile d is bigger than percentile d. So this time I'm displaying the values of b and a. So that means b is bigger than a, right? So I'm displaying them in b comma a. So look here, you have a value of a and you have the value of b. So I'll take the previous same two numbers, 10 and 12. So a value is 10 and b value is 12. So first what I'm comparing here, 10 greater than 12. So what is the result of this expression?
False.
It is false. So what it displays now? It will go
Hashtag
to this else block. So this statement is displayed. So what it displays? So first percentile d is replaced with b and second one is replaced with a. So 12 is
Greater than, bigger number than.
bigger than 10.
true, true.
Okay, got it?
Yes, sir.
Suppose if your values are not 10 and 12, if they are like 12 and 10, that means a value is 12 and b value is 10. So this time the comparison will be like this. So what it compares now? 12 greater than 10. So what is the result of this expression now?
True.
It is true. It will execute this print statement, that is a true block.
True.
So first one is replaced with a
A.
and second one is replaced with b.
B.
So it displays 12 is bigger than
10.
ultimately it will display the biggest number, but the numbers are different in both the situations, right? So your program should be in that way. It should choose the biggest number, whether it is in a or whether it is in b. Okay, just I'll compile the code and I'll show you. So incompatible implicit declaration of built-in function printf. So because I have forgot to write, hash include stdio.h. So it is asking to enter two numbers. So I'm entering two numbers. First is, I'll say 15. You press enter, it will take the second number. And I'll say 33. So 33 is bigger than 15. So first number is A and second number is B. So in this case, it is displaying the statement in the else block, not the statement in the if block. That means the condition that I have taken is false. And the same thing I am telling you again. This statement is here because it is satisfying this condition. You can write this condition in different ways. Like you can write a value, you can write a condition like this, a less than b. You can write b greater than a, b less than a. So Depending on the test expression you choose, your true block and false block will change. If the condition is written like a less than b, the condition a less than b is true. That means who is bigger? If the condition a less than b is true, who is bigger, a or b?
B.
B is bigger. So the statement you are going to write there will differ. The statement which you write in the true block is not the same that what I have written here. So my point is, your true block and false block statements are depending on your test expression you write. That is the bottom line. Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Okay. So you just make a note. I'll tell you one program. So after, if you are able to understand these two, you just give a try for that program. So I'll tell you. Note down. Write a program. Write a program to display whether the given number is positive or negative number. Whether the given number is positive or negative number. Okay. So suppose I'll take a variable, say n, and I'm giving a value -3. So whether this number is positive or negative number.
Negative number.
So how you are telling that it is a negative number?
It's
There is a
-3.
minus sign. You can't simply, when you are writing a program, you can't simply say there is a minus sign. So you have to apply any of these relational operators for finding out whether it will have a negative sign or positive sign. So how you can say? By using a relational operator. Your test expressions have to be written with the help of those relational operators. So is there any chance of finding with the help of those relational operators? Can you frame any expression with the help of relational operators?
No, sir.
No.
I don't know.
So see, if I have a value in n and the value is greater than 0, is it a positive or negative number?
Positive number.
You have a value and if it is less than 0,
Negative number.
negative number. So you can find out, right? So all the values which are greater than 0, they are positive numbers. All the values that are less than 0, negative numbers. So you no need to bother about whether there is a negative sign here or not. So you can just compare with a 0 and there you can decide, okay, this is positive and this is negative, right?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So I'm telling you the logic how to write. So you give a try for this one. And remember one thing, I say number of programs. Previously, like last 2 weeks, we are only with the discussion of the basic concepts. So we have not discussed the program. So we started discussing programs from 2 to 3 classes. So when we start learning the concepts, so every day we'll discuss like 3 to 5 programs per day, and those 3 to 5 programs are not only C language. Those 3 or 5 programs is just to understand the concept, how to use them in the programming. Okay, you have to practice with different examples, then only you will get to know how to write it, how to implement in your program, how to use that in the program. So make sure you practice more number of examples. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just you just give a try for this, and I'll stop with
Sir,
yes.
in this before program, we wrote the largest of two numbers. Then how to write in this positive or negative number?
Yes, you just compare the thing. You take one value,